This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, Rabbi. So we're continuing and hopefully finishing the Ramban's Hakdama to the Torah today. Last week we learned something very interesting. The Ramban learned that the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah that says there are 50 gates of wisdom in the world. We said the simple explanation of that is that in Torah there are 50 levels of understanding, and Moshe Rabbeinu had 49 out of the 50. The Ramban has a completely different interpretation of that Gemara. The Ramban learns that there are basically 50 different disciplines. There's botany, there's chemistry, there's the knowledge of the fish, the birds, the animals, human beings, psychology, so on and so forth. And Moshe Rabbeinu knew all 49, and when we say he didn't know the 50th, the 50th, the Ramban says, is the knowledge of Hashem himself, which is not really a shar which is created, even though the Gemara says, Chamishim shar nivru'u, but it refers to the other 49. The 50th gate is not a created wisdom because God was not created, but it uses the word nivru'u in reference to the other 49. And the Ramban says that when Rebbe Shem gave the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, along with the Torah was the knowledge of all the workings of the universe, all scientific information, knowledge of the human being and the way the body operates. And this information was given to Moshe Rabbeinu orally. And not only orally, it's actually written. And where is it written? In the tagim, in the crowns of the letters, all of this information is recorded. And Moshe Rabbeinu had an exact tradition about which tag represents and which teaches which piece of information. I saw something in the footnotes over here that I'm going to speak out when we get to it. Okay, so let's continue. We're on page Daled. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the top. 8 lines down on page Daled. Do you have page Daled? You should have page Daled. Yeah, here's page Daled. Okay. Umizeh Amru, B'shir Hashirim Rabbah. The Medrash says as follows. The Chizkiyahu. That Chizkiyahu, Sefer Tagi Heralahem. Then one of the things Chizkiyahu was criticized for is that when the king of Ashur came through Eretz Yisrael, the Navi says that Chizkiyahu showed him the Beis Nechai, the treasury. Now what does that mean, the treasury? What was he showing him? The royal collection of treasures? What was Chizkiyahu showing king of the Ashur? The answer is he showed him Sefer Tagi. Sefer Tagi is basically a book of the Tagim on the Torah. So last week we spoke out, I just want to say clearly that our Messiah is, there are 7 letters that have a tag on it. They are the letters of Shatnez gates. Shin Ayin, Tes, Nun Zayin, Gimel, Tzadi. They all have 3 crowns on the final part of the letter, toward the left. They all, right? If you look in our Sefer Torah, all these 7 letters have 3 tagim on it. However, based on the Kabbalah and our Sefer Torah, I do not think have this. The letters Bedek Chaya, Beis Daled Kuf Ches Yud Hey have 1 tag on it, and the letters Meleches Soifer have no tagim on it. So they're basically 3 types of letters. So Chizkiyahu showed the king of Ashur this Sefer Tagi, which was available. Says the Ramban, this Sefer was readily available. Yifarshu by Kama Alfin Batar Batagin. It says how many olives in the Torah have a tag, Vikama Bezin, and how many Bez, Ushara Oisios, and other letters. So for example, what's interesting is, now besides the fact that Shatnez Gaze has 3 tagim, Bedek Chaya have 1, Melechas Sofer have none, there are random letters that have a random number of tagim, anywhere between 0 and 7. So I'll just give you an example. I was learning the Bnei Yissaschar, a famous piece on Chanukah, right? So he says, Vayar Lekim Asar Ki Toiv, on the letter Tes of Toiv, there are 4 tagim. 4 times 9 is 36. So I was always curious about that. So I looked in the Sefer Torah. It doesn't have 4 tagim on it. So I asked people, nobody knew. I did not get an answer. What is Bnei Yissaschar talking about? The answer is, like the Ramban says, there was an ancient tradition. It's quoted by the Rekeach. But our Sefer Torah don't have it. There was an ancient tradition. The same way we're not Bekiyim in Chaseros and Yiseros, whether there's an extra yod or not an extra yod, extra vav, we're certainly not Bekiyim anymore in these Tagim. This part of the Tarsha Baal Peh that ceased. Only Shatnez gates.
why not the rest?
We just don't know. Chana's Gaze is very easy. Any of these 7 letters have 3 tagim, but the random tagim, the random additional tagim, the 7 tagim, the 1 tag, we don't have a tradition on.
In the Kairogeniza, those Sefer Torah don't have any tagim on them?
I don't know. I'll let you know. It's available. It's open now in London. I probably won't be able to go though. Anyway, the Kama Bezin, the Shar Oisios, Umisper hatagim shebachol achas, and how many tagim are in each one? So now the Ramban says the critique on Chizkiyahu was not that he showed the king of Ashur this sefer, because this is a readily available sefer. He says Ramban, the great praise that Chazal have for this work, and the critique that Chizkiyahu revealed the secret, it's not that Chizkiyahu said, hey, King Ashur, look, I'm telling you a big side now. This letter has this number of crowns, that letter doesn't have any crowns. The critique on Chizkiyahu is that he gave over to the king of Ashur. You see this tag is the DNA code. You see this tag explains the secret of the heart, how the heart operates. All the secrets of the universe, or many of them, Chizkiyahu revealed to the king of Ashur by telling him where in the Torah these secrets lay. Ela b'yediasan, but knowing them, b'perushan, their explanations, soidos rabim amukim ma'od. The Medrash continues, and here is something that is like a tremendous eye-opener to me. If I were to ask you, we know, you look through the Navi Yecheskel. In Navi Yecheskel, you have the story of the Ma'aser Merkava, right? Yecheskel sort of prophesies what Hashem's chariot looks like. So if I were to ask you, how did Chizkiyahu know? How did Yecheskel know this? How did Yecheskel know this? He says, one day, Va'era, God opened up the heaven and he gave him prophecy. That's it. That's what I thought. That Hashem told him. The Ramban says you're not allowed to think that. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with Nevuah? Ramban says that's not the pshat. But that's what I always thought. For example, he says, Ramban says, V'sham b'medrash shir hashirim rabba amru, Kasav, the pasuk says in Vaschanan, Vayaged lachem es brisai, he told them his covenant, the Medrash Darshans, Vayaged lachem sefer Bereishis, Brisai could be read, Sheitchilas briyasai shel olam. He told them about the creation of the world. That means when Hashem gave the Torah, He taught them about the creation of the world. Asher tziva escham la'asos aseres hadvarim. The pasuk says He commanded them the 10 things. Elo aseres hadibros. Asar lemikra, the 10 dibros of Tarsha b'chsav. Asar letalmud, and the Tarsha b'al peh. Now the Ramban says something phenomenal here. V'chiminayin yavoi Eliyahu ben Barachel Habuzi. Now who is, anybody here know who Eliyahu ben Barachel is? Anyone ever hear of him? Eliyahu ben Barachel is one of the friends of Eiv. And in Sefer Eiv, Eliyahu reveals, not Eliyahu Navi, he reveals to Eiv certain secrets of the world. For example, the behemoth, the secret of the behemoth and the secret of the Leviathan. If you'd said that Yehiratsan when you left the sukkah, so some people have the art scroll on the bottom, they give you the whole story of the behemoth and the Leviathan. Where did Eliyahu know the secret from? How was he able to megal to Yisrael Chadrei Behemoth Leviathan, page 8? Uminayin Yavo Yecheskel v'Yigal Lehem Sisrei Hamarkava. How could Eliyahu reveal the secret of the chariots? So I would have said, because God told him. No. Hadahu d'chsev Heviani Hamelech Chadarav. God brought me into His inner sanctums. Koloimar Shehakol Nilmad Meha Torah. It was learned from the Torah. So I'm not even sure how to explain this, because the Navi says he had a nevuah.
What would be the difference between having a nevuah learning from Torah?
Because the Gemara says in Megillah, and Daf Gimel, Tzoifim, Man Amram. Who said, right, Menatzvach, Tzoifim Amram. The final letters were said by the Nevi'im. Frek the Gemara, V'ha'ein Navi roi l'chadesh davar. Navi is not allowed to say any innovation. If a Navi comes and says, by the way, God... The Ramban seems to be learning that Gemara, that in Navi Rasher Chadash Davar, that a Navi cannot come and say even secret information. In other words, secrets of the universe, Navi can't reveal, unless it's in the Torah. But does it say, to me it sounds like Yecheskel and Eliyahu derived it from the Torah. That's what the Ramban says, Koloimar Shehakol Nilmad Meha Torah. What do you mean Yecheskel derived the Ma'aser Merkava from the Torah? I thought Hashem showed him in a nevuah. Unless you have to say Hashem showed him in a nevuah how to derive it from the Torah.
If everything's already in the Torah, then
see it himself.
Yeah.
But the Torah is a type of message. It's different. It's a different level of meaning. It's different. It's just different.
With Rabbi Kiva, and how did Rabbi Kiva, when it says, when it brings down the Gemara and Rav, how did Rabbi Kiva,
Right.
what was he doing? It sounds like he was deriving it from
But it had to have been from what Moshe Rabbeinu himself taught.
no.
Because even though the Gemara, now there are two things. The Gemara says Moshe didn't understand it. Hashem said Chazar lacharav. I think I pointed out last week. The Ramban does not necessarily have that part of the Girsa that Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to go to the 8th row and Moshe didn't understand. All he had was Halacha l'Moshe miSinai. I'm not sure what the Ramban means here. To me, what it sounds like is that all the visions of Yecheskel, whatever Yecheskel taught Klal Yisrael, was learned from the Torah. Maybe the Nevuah merely taught him how to derive it from the Torah.
Or is he saying that that's what Nevuah is?
I would think there's a concept of Nevuah that's not deriving from the Torah. And for example, if Hashem's telling a Navi what's going to happen in the future, I don't think that has to be derived from the Torah. Why? Why would that? Why? Because it's a future event. I don't know if that has to be in the Torah, but matters of creation, since Hashem created the world with the Torah, I think that does have to be in the Torah. No, Ben, it's an interesting idea that the Ramban is saying, no? It's a Pella.
Especially it says that he saw the Nevuah.
Right? And the Ramban says, Minayin Yava Yecheskel v'yigalah Sisrei Megara. How did Yecheskel know? What do you mean, how do you know? He said, Va'era b'mara Hashem. I saw it. Now, there's two things. Yecheskel had a Sefer HaTagim. Now, how did he know from a Messiah? Can I just tell you something? People say, yeah, we have a lot of Torah today. In the world of the Vilna Gaon, we cannot have no Torah today. The Gra writes in many, many Mekayimos, especially on the Pasuk in Eicha, Malka v'sareha ba'goyim ein Torah. The Gra, that's a Pasuk. When we went into exile, we have no Torah. It says the Vilna Gaon also says this, it says this in many places, that the Gemara in Chagiga says we used to have 600 Sidrei Mishnah. We only have 6. Most of the Torah we don't have anymore. We know the halachas, we know what we have to do, we don't have to do. But all the secrets and all the limudim and the vast majority of the body of Torah, we lost. The Gra writes, many Mekayimos. It's a theme of the Gra. It's a pasuk in Eicha. Malka v'sar. Says the Gra, when you daven, Yirasim v'fanecha Hashem Elokeinu v'seinu, Sheyibana beis hamikdash imher v'yameinu, b'sein chalkeinu b'sarasecha. Hashem built a beis hamikdash, and we should have a chilek in Torah. What do you mean? I thought ve'in Shiur rak ha-Torah hazois. We need the beis hamikdash to have Torah. The Gra says yes. When the beis hamikdash will be built, we'll have the Torah back. But Chavetz Chaim says all of our amelus is to try to retrieve all the Torah that was lost.
I always learned that the Gra knew Kol Torah Kula.
I mean, did the Gra know which Kutzah Shel Yud the DNA code was
I
on?
was told in Yeshiva the Gra looked at the Beis in Bereishis and was able to
I don't know.
decipher from that the whole Kol Torah Kula.
Maybe the Gra, I don't know. As much as was humanly possible, did the Gra know what Moshe Rabbeinu knew?
Definitely not.
And when did we lose it? What point in time?
Chorv Beis HaMikdash.
But the Tanoim were after. No? The Mishnah, our whole Talmud Bavli is all after. Forget about the Rishonim are past. That's from the year 1000.
Put it this way, Rabbi, who only had 6 Sidrei Mishnah, obviously did not have 600 Sidrei Mishnah.
So from then?
Right? It's a big topic in the Rishonim. When did we lose the Siddharim?
One of the students of Agro writes, if Agro was genius and if he would live 2,000 years, he would be like Ramban.
The Gra? Rav Chaim Volozhiner says about the Gra, he was as great as the Rashba, ve'ulai Ramban. So that's an amazing statement. That means the Chaim Volozhiner knew exactly where the Rashba stood. He knew the Ramban was here, and he knew the Gra was at least here, but maybe here. Right? To be able to assess the godless zone. Look at the next thing, very, very interesting to me. He says, Ushloimei HaMelech, Shloimei, Shenasan Lo Yalekim HaChachma VaHamada. that God gave him wisdom and knowledge. Where did he get it from? It's not like he had an outside source of knowledge. It all came from the Torah. Umimeno lamad, he learned it ad sheyada soid kol hatoldos, until he realized the secret of all of nature. Va'afilu koichos asavim, he realized the powers and the energies of herbs, uskulasam, and their segulos, meaning their mystical powers. Ad shekasadan afilu sevruas, to the point where Shlomo Melech was able to write a book of remedies. That, if you have this issue, you take this grass. Ke'inyan shekasav, like it says by Shlomo. Vayedaber al ha'etzim. He was able to speak about the trees, min ha'erez hashav lebanon, from the cedar in the Lebanon, v'yad ha'ezav ha'shayotz v'kir, to the grass that grows out of the wall. Now this is very interesting. There's a sefer called Chachma de Shlomo. So really? Where is it? It's not in my Tanakh. I know we have Mishlei, Shir Hashirim, Koheles. There's another book. There's something called Sefer de Shlomo, Chachma de Shlomo. This is a book of the Apocrypha. You ever hear of the Apocrypha? Let's say the book of the Maccabees.
Stuff that was left out.
These are works that are written by people in Tanakh, and were a little bit later, and was not included in the Tanakh. Now, why is it not included in Tanakh? The Christians included in their scriptures, and our Messiah is that it's not part of the Tanakh. Doesn't mean everything is not true, but it was not codified and submitted to Tanakh for a very important reason. The reason is like this: you have to understand why the Christians put it into their Bible, and they put it in for the most important reason for them, and that is they have a big kasha, because God spoke to Malachi, right? He's the last prophet, and then the Rebbe Hashem spoke to Yozel hundreds of years later. So the kasha, what happened? Hashem went on vacation for a few hundred years. So in order to answer that question, they try to incorporate all the books that were written between Malachi and the Yozel, and they say it's all part of Tanakh. The era of prophecy did not cease.
But isn't Chachma Shlomo from before Malachi?
Yeah. So we believe that no, God spoke to Malachi, and that's the last time He communicated to man through Nevuah. God never again spoke to a human being through prophecy. It never happened again. People have different. I have a Messiah that this Gadol was a Navi. He's not a Navi. Not a Navi. We don't believe in that. It's against the Yisaidei Amunah. Nevuah ceased. It stopped. Maybe Ruach HaKodesh, maybe divine communal, whatever that means. But Nevuah ceased, because once you're going to say Hashem spoke to other people, it's already putting a crack in the whole fundamental of Yahadus. One of the now there are many books that were, for example, the book of the Maccabees. Chanukah happened after Malachi. So whether the book of Maccabees is true or not, it's not part of the Tanakh. One of the apocryphal books is Chachma de Shlomo. Now, obviously it's true, the Ramban is quoting it now. It's not part of Tanakh.
So was there prophecy? Was there Nevuah then, though?
There was Nevuah then. This book was not written by Nevuah.
But enough to be sorted.
It's a credible source. Yes.
So what's the difference?
The book it's not Torah.
But okay, but what on a practical?
What makes it Torah?
No,
Well,
I'm saying, so what? What's the difference?
the difference is when you learn it.
Is it different schar?
Sure, yeah, different schar. Yeah, and one is the divine MS, and one is. Let me ask you a question. Let's say Gadol Yisrael writes today the history of the Jewish people in America. So it's very important to know it's Das Torah, but it's not Torah, right? So this book Chachma de Shlomo, it's not Torah. Now it's Torah. Now that the Ramban brings it into the Parsha Ramban, now it's Torah.
It's not a primary source, it's a secondary source.
But let's see what it says. And by the way, it was written in Aramaic, and then the Ramban translates it. So Ramban quotes 3 lines in Aramaic, and then let's go down to where he says Yoimar. The first one on the line here is Li. Yoimar, ki loy midavar tia todos michaz l'melech l'shad. There's nothing special about a king. Meaning, echad hu biyas kolish b'olam. Whether you're a king or you're a oisvarf, when you're born in the hospital, they all look the same in the nursery. The future Gedolei Yisrael and the future nobodies, they all look exactly the same in the nursery. And this is something Shlomo Melech realized. And when they leave the world, they all go into the earth and the worms eat them just as much. So basically, everyone comes into the world the same way and everyone leaves the world the same way. Ubaber Cain says Shlomo, because of this, hispalalti I davened, v'nasan lo ruach chachma, that Hashem should give me a spirit of wisdom, v'karasi, and I called out, ubali ruach das, I had a spirit of knowledge, b'charti ba yosem min ha-shevet b'hakisei, I selected that as more important than dominion. Then the Ramban quotes the next 4 lines from this Sefer Chachmas Ad Shloimei. Last word on the page, Yoimar, go to page Vav. This seems to indicate, Sha'alekim hu hanoisin das. God is the one who gives wisdom, she'em by sheker, leida ich kam ha'olam, to know how the world arose, umasa hamazalos, and the constellations, harosh v'hasoif, the beginning of the universe, end of the universe, amtsois hazmanim, and the means of times, v'alak soinois, and their intersections, hazanavois, of the orbits, ve'chiyasu hazmanim rutzas hashamayim, how time is affected by the movements of the constellations, ukfias ha'kochavim, lachos ha'behima, v'chamas ha'chayos, the moisture of animals, the heat of the wild animals, the winds, man's thought, the trees. Kol davar mechusa v'chol davar megula yadati. Says Shlomo, I knew everything that's hidden and everything that's revealed. Says Ramban, how did Shlomo know it? Kol zeh yada b'Torah. It's not that God came to him and said, Shlomo, by the way, the DNA code has this number of chromosomes. Shlomo knew it from the Tagim of the Torah.
But he accessed it through the Torah.
Right.
He was able to access it because the fact that Hashem granted him the wisdom he asked for. Meaning the portal was the Torah.
Right.
But his mind was activated to understand the Torah by Hashem.
Right.
That could potentially be how the Ramban learns that all Nevi'is is.
I wouldn't think so. Because that would be a big... is that true? When Hashem came to Yirmiyah, we know the Rambam describes, when a Navi got prophecy, basically all of your faculties ceased. The person would go into something like an epileptic seizure. He would not act as an Adam anymore. He would just fall on his face, except for Moshe Rabbeinu. It was in a vision at night, and Hashem would show him, the Rambam says, an image, and the neshama of the Navi had to sort of decipher the image. And now what? It's through, they had to uncode it by activating the Tagim of the Torah. I don't think that's how Nevuah works. Unless I don't know.
Because everything is, the Torah is the blueprint. So everything is in. History from start to finish, everything's in the Torah.
Right.
You could get anything in the Torah from start to, that's what we believe.
Well, certainly science. Now history is a little bit more difficult because it's dependent on our free choice. But we know the Ramban himself says, right, the famous Talmud Avner, Amarti Afehem Ashbisa Me'ener Zichram, that he had a Talmud who went off, and he asked, where am I in the Torah? And the Ramban said, you're in this pasuk. So you're saying that's how Nevuah is? Nevuah is a certain encounter with the Tagei HaTorah? Is that what Nevuah is? I certainly never understood Nevuah that way.
He means
the information, but in terms of what we call Nevuah, Nevuas Yirmiyah, Nevuas Yechezkel, Ma'aseh Merkava. I mean, he says in Ma'aseh Merkava he got from the Torah.
And there's no evidence that being a Navi means that you are an unbelievable tzaddik.
Well, you had to be. There are criteria to be a Navi. You had to be a Gibar, you had to be a Chacham,
sure,
you had to be...
Sure, all those things, but Nevuah is, it's quotes from Hashem. It's like you're a pipeline, you're a conduit.
But not the words. It's not like Hashem did not come to tell Yirmiyah these words. He saw an image, that's what the Rambam says. He saw an image, and through the spirit of Nevuah, he was able to decipher the image. But does that mean there's some process of accessing it from the Oisiyos HaTorah? I mean, he says Yechezkel got it that way, so maybe, I don't know.
It makes sense.
Yeah?
It makes sense because anything.
I understand it's all in there.
Is in the Torah. That's kind of, the Torah is
the blueprint.
But then why even have the process of Nevuah? Meaning, why even have an epileptic fit? Why even have all these things if all you're doing is basically going to be activating what you know in the Torah anyway, and you could look it up without having any voice from Hashem or image from Hashem. It's all in the Torah anyway. It's all there. What's the point of having the other parts of the process?
Presumably you can't access it without having that Nevuah.
Can I read to you just a little bit more? I want to I'm reading, to me, these are major chidushim. I didn't even realize how innovative it was even until now. Okay, so Shlomo got everything from the Torah. How? Hakal matzaba, beperusha, bedikduka, ba'oisiyaseh, uvukutseha. I don't think the Ramban means nevuah. I mean, all the knowledge he had, he accessed in the Torah. V'chein amar b'yakasov. And I think Yechezkel also. You could say like this. Yechezkel's, I know, but
prophecy is knowledge.
in terms of Hashem prophesying, Klal Yisrael was returning to Eretz Yisrael in 70 years. Does that mean Yirmiyah just like figured out certain crowns on letters and he accessed it? You see, I think Ma'aseh Merkava is different. Ma'aseh Merkava is like reality of the universe. Maybe happenings are not realities, they're Hashem decided certain things should happen based on the activities of man. So maybe prophecy is different. I don't know. Look what he says. This is, to me, incredible. V'chein amar hakasov, v'aterev chachma Hashem mechachmas kol minei kedem. Shlomo's wisdom superseded the wisdom of all of the people of the East. Meaning, the people of the East were baki in necromancy and in augury, shezuhi chachmasam, shenemar, kimilu mekedem einum kablishin. V'chach amru, ma hoysach chachmas shom kedem, shoyodim va'rumim betayr, they knew bird divination. And we call chachmas Mitzrayim, he knew more than the wisdom of Mitzrayim, who were baki and kishaf. To me, this is the most interesting thing in the world. The Medrash says Shlomo planted peppers in Israel. The problem is, peppers don't grow in Israel.
Hadn't? Or don't?
They don't. And they hadn't. They only grow in Ethiopia.
Peppers.
Talpalan. So how did he do it?
Which one? Small one or?
You know that that's I can't answer that.
Habaneros? What kind of peppers are we talking about over here?
Pilpulin.
Pilpulin.
So that's the kasha. So I don't know if I personally, how bothered I would be by that question. I would say he figured out how to do it. This is Chazal. To me, this is incredible. This is like, opens up the world. Ubeteva hatzomech, he knew how to plant things. Ki yadua, misefer ha'avoida hamitzris. Like we know about the Egyptian technique, they knew how to graft, they knew how to plant. V'chein amru, this is a Chazal now. It's a Chazal in the Medrash Tanchuma and Parshas Kedoshim. Afilu pilpulin nata shlama be'eretz Yisrael. Says Ramban, how did he do it? Ready? V'ketzad hayanoitan. Ela shloima chacham haya. He was very wise. He knew the foundation of the world. I have a great mashal. You know, they ask you, when the baby's born, do you want to save the umbilical cord?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Why?
Big business.
Yeah, whether it does or it doesn't, there's a concept that, like, stem cell research. That really every chromosome has the information for the whole body in it, but especially those cells, you could somehow... platelets or right somehow from there different organs could potentially be regenerated. So too, if the umbilical cord and the stem cells are sort of the source of the human body, what's the source of the world? Eretz Yisrael, because Hashem created the world from Eretz Yisrael. So Eretz Yisrael is like the stem cells, the umbilical cord of the world. Mamela, the same way you could regenerate an eye from the stem cell, in Eretz Yisrael, there's a shtick of Ethiopia, there's a shtick of every country, and there's like an underground channel from Eretz Yisrael going to Ethiopia. In other words, the Iker Yesod of Ethiopia is in Yerushalayim, and from Yerushalayim there's like a gid, there's like a vein that goes down, and it opens up, and that is Ethiopia. Meaning, the United States of America has like a cell in Eretz Yisrael, that the root of America is somewhere in Yerushalayim. There's like a vein, an artery that is very narrow in Eretz Yisrael, and it opens up. The what?
It goes right from under the consulate.
Yeah, from the embassy, right? So it says the Ramban, Lama, he knew the foundation of the world. Lama, Mitzian Mechlal Yoifi. Tzion is the perfection of beauty. Elikim Hoifi Hashem appeared. Mitzian Nishtach Lo Kalolim Kulai. From Yerushalayim the whole world was created. Ketzad, Lama Nikros Evan Shasia, Shemimeno Nishtas Oilam. V'haya Shlama Yodeh Eza Gid Shuhel Chakush. He was able to look in the ground, look at the root in Yerushalayim that goes to Ethiopia, and he planted the pepper on that little 2x2. Because that's Ethiopia. And it produced fruit immediately. Shlomo says, V'natati behem eitz kol peri. So theoretically, to me, this means like one day, if you're able to tap into that, all of the climates and all of the forests and all the beauty of all the countries of the world will be one day be in Eretz Yisrael.
I thought he was going to say different, though.
Yeah.
He's not saying that Shlomo Melech was a brilliant botanist and knew how to plant things. He's saying he was a brilliant at understanding where is the metaphysical connection between Ethiopia and Eretz Yisrael. And you pop a seed over there, it'll grow.
My biggest question is why do you go for peppers?
Okay.
You throw a seed over there and it grows.
I like peppers. I'm not bothered by that.
If he was a brilliant botanist, he would be able to plant the peppers anywhere. Because he would understand.
No, but peppers don't grow everywhere.
He would understand the physical structure, the metaphysical structure of the pepper, and why this pepper is unique to Ethiopia, and then recreate that metaphysical structure in Eretz Yisrael. What's so interesting?
To me, the concept of there's some kind of pipeline from Eretz Yisrael to all the different countries is.
Yeah, but there is something about pepper, right? The Gemara Sukkah have like one daf of discussion of is it the stroke of pepper? So I guess it is like.
I mean, peppers are a deep fruit.
No, I mean like Gemara speaks for the whole blood, like is it one?
Maybe there's going to be palpulin and pilpul. We'll talk about that. Fine. Let's just end with this. This is also tremendous. We have a true tradition that besides the Torah being narrative, Kikol HaTorah Kula Shmoisav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the words of the Torah are names of Hashem. It's a tremendous Kabbalah that we have. That the Torah, it's all Shemos. For example, Tosfos and Chagiga says the Shem Mem Beis comes from the first two psukim of the Torah. Rashi and Sukkah, Tosfos and Sukkah says the Shem Ayin Beis comes from the three psukim before the Shira. Vayet, Vayasa, Vayavai. We spoke about that Sukkah's time. That besides breaking up the words Bereishis, Bara, Elokim, you could break up the words differently. For example, Ki pasuk Bereishis yischalik letevois acheros kagoin Bereish Yisbara Elokim. Instead of reading it Bereishis Elokim, you could break it up Bereish Yisbara Elokim. These are names of Hashem. V'chol haTorah, the entire Torah are Shemos. People want to know, Torah Shabbat Peh, if you just learn Mishnah and you have no idea what you're talking about, you're not doing anything. When it comes to Torah Shabbat Peh, if you don't understand what you're saying, you're not Makabel Schar. Torah Shabbat Chsav not. Torah Shabbat Chsav, if you read Psukim and you don't know what you're talking about, you get Schar Limud Torah. Why? The answer is because they're names of Hashem. How do we know that Torah is the name of Hashem? From where do we learn out that you have to make Berachas HaTorah? From the pasuk, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra Havu Gadol Elokeinu. When I say the name of God, I have to praise Him. When do I say the name of Hashem? When you learn Torah, you're saying the names of Hashem. So the words of the Torah are names of Hashem. Besides different combinations and numerical values of the names. And then the Ramban quotes Rashi and Shas, page Zayin. We're almost done. That Rashi reveals the 72-letter name of Hashem comes from three psukim in B'Shalach, Vayasa, Vayava, Vayet. Therefore, says Ramban, a Sefer Torah, let's say there's a missing vav in a Sefer Torah, or an extra vav. What's the nafkamina? Doesn't change the meaning of the word. Whether Oisam has a vav, doesn't have a vav, who cares? Why do we pass the Sefer Torah if it's missing a vav or extra vav? The answer is the narrative doesn't change, but it's ruining different names of Hashem. So basically, a Sefer Torah has two dimensions to it. There's the narrative, and then there's the names. Says Ramban, because this concept that the Torah, the names of Hashem, requires us to passel a Sefer Torah that's missing a vav from Oisam. Right? There we have a tradition, there are 39 Oisams that have to have a vav, the rest not. And we'll end with this. This is sort of the end of this paragraph, 5 lines before the end of this paragraph. The Ramban says a chiddush. Remember we started, what? Yeah, good? The word Aleph, Vav, Taf, Mem. Oisam. 39 times it's spelled with a Vav, the rest without a Vav.
Oh.
If it doesn't have a Vav, the Sefer Torah is puzzle. Why? It doesn't change the meaning. Because you're ruining one of the names of Hashem that's alluded. Says the Ramban, remember in the beginning of this introduction I said that the Torah pre-existed the world. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't start Bereishis, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemar, because the Torah existed before Moshe Rabbeinu. Says the Ramban, it exists in Shamayim, black fire on white fire. Says Ramban, when we say the Torah existed, black fire on white fire, did not exist Bereishis, Bara, Elokim, Ezra Shamayim. It existed straight, Beis, Reish, Aleph, Shin, Yud, Taf, and it was still up for grabs how the words would be combined on the narrative level. But on the Shemos level, it existed just words, like a computer code. V'nira sha'atar aksuva be'esh. What?
Are the names repeated, or is it all different?
All different names. It's like 72 letters, 42 letters, and I'm sure most of it, I can't even explain. The writing was straight. What's the correct word for it? When you have just letters, straight, continuous. There's a more sophisticated word for this that is eluding me at the moment. Okay. Beli hefsek tevos, without separation of words. Then it could have been read the way it's read by the names. And it also could have been read the way we read it. We read it. When it was given to Moshe, that's when it was broken up into Bereishis bara Elokim. But the Shemos were given to Moshe Rabbeinu Baal Peh. So, if you ever saw any of the Svarmer of Michal Bar Weissmandel, you ever see his codes? He has tremendous codes for the different happenings of the world. The Bible codes. He was the first. He has incredible codes. He'll say, go skip 613 letters, and then skip another 613 letters without a computer. He says he was once in a shul, and he was opened up the Sefer Torah, and the letters of the Torah got off the page and were dancing in front of him, and he was able to see and skip letters. What did he see exactly? It's like he saw, the primordial Torah, the Torah that existed in Shemayim. So you have to understand, when we're reading Torah, we think we're reading a nice story about Abraham and Sarah. These are the names of Hashem. It's like Hashem gave us. If we would only know what we have in our possession.
Is that going Bereishis through the Ramban, or we're talking about the Tehillim and talking everything else? Because it sounds like there might be a difference there.
Bereishis through the Ramban.
That's important because you might say, Tehillim, same type of.
Now Tehillim is Nevuah. It's Kesuvim.
Right, but the Bereishis is what we're talking about.
No, but isn't that all Torah Shebechsav? Is everything?
It is Torah Shebechsav. So you want to know, are the secrets of the universe there too? Yeah. Yeah. You do get schar. You do get schar if you say they're not as jam-packed. The Shemos, you want to know, are like Nevi'im and Ksuvim the Shemos also?
Well,
he doesn't say that. I don't want to say that it's not.
No, but you said before Torah Shebechsav, you meant just the Chamisha Sefer Torah, the Chamisha.
When I said Torah Shebechsav, well, Torah Nevi'im.
As opposed to Mishnah and Gemara, which you have to understand it.
You want to know?
Versus just saying the words. Is it Torah Shebechsav meaning Nevi'im and Ksuvim, or just Torah? Meaning, where's the breakout?
In terms of saying without understanding?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say. I don't know. Okay? But I will tell you, we'll get this on.
No,
can I tell you something very interesting?
You could just say
the Medrash says, there's a Medrash, and this is like a classic machlokes, a beautiful machlokes. David HaMelech, when he wrote Tehillim, he davened to Hashem, he wrote saying that the Amir of Tehillim should be like the learning of Negoim and Oyalais. Right? Like Negoim and Oyalais. That what? So from here we see, so if you just rattle off Tehillim, it's like on the level of Negoim and Oyalais. So Chaim Volozhiner says David HaMelech asked, and we don't find Hashem granted it, so it's not. And the Peleioid says, if David HaMelech asked, Mustama Hashem said yes. So in other words, if you just rattle off Tehillim, do you get schar of learning Negam V'Oilas? It's machlokes. L'maisa the Oilam HaYeshivas, Nemzan like Reb Chaim Volozhiner, it's not. But Torah Shebechsav, Chumash, for sure you get schar, even if you don't understand. Okay, let's hold it over here. A lot to think about.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.